So when an event is called for 12:30, that means you really have to start it by 12:40. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm Roger Citron. I'm a professor here at Touro Law School, and it is a real pleasure and a privilege to introduce our speaker today. His name is Dr. Pan Guang, and I first met Pan Guang through a mutual friend of ours, a gentleman named John Lowett. Coincidentally, I saw my friend yesterday with a group of other people, and we were talking about Pan Guang's visit for today. And when another friend of ours said, "What are you talking about?" my friend John Lowett said, "Oh, well, the foremost authority on Jews in China is working with Roger on a conference and going out to lecture at Touro Law School. So I can certainly say that we have the foremost authority in the world on Jews in China." More officially, Dr. Pan Guang is the Vice Chairman and Professor of Shanghai Center for International Studies, the Director of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Studies Center, which is located in Shanghai, and he's also the Dean of the Center of Jewish Studies in Shanghai, and Vice President of the Chinese Association of Middle East Studies. I'll stop there. That's about a quarter of what I could talk about in connection with his resume. He's written many books and articles. Today he'll be delivering a lecture on Jews in Shanghai and China during the 1930s and 40s. The last thing I would point out is that if you have any interest at all in the Center of Jewish Studies Shanghai, of which Dr. Pan Guang is the dean, we have brochures over on the table, and those will be available after the lecture. Thank you so much for coming, and it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Pan Guang.
Thank you, Roger, and thanks to the college, your college, to arrange my lecture. This time I'm mainly on the way to Washington, D.C. to join some conference. But we know your group in Shanghai because you will organize a big event on Holocaust about Shanghai in memory of 70th anniversary of Jews' survival in Shanghai. 1945 and 2015. So we work together now. So I take this opportunity. Fortunately, yesterday my flight landed on time. Small, no snow, no problem. We worry about last week. We worry about this, but very lucky. It's a very nice weather. So today I give a lecture about Jews in Shanghai, China during the Holocaust. But firstly, I still want to give some introduction about the history of Jews in China. So part one of my lecture is Jews in China. Give some introduction. Firstly, I show the photo to you. Show the map to you. Basically. For the historian, Jews immigrate to China, we divided it called 5 waves. 5 waves. First, the ancient time, a group of Jews come to China around the Silk Road, old Silk Road, by the land, not by the sea. During the 7th to 8th century, in Chinese history, is Tang Dynasty. This group of Jews come to the city. Xi'an was the capital of Tang Dynasty. Then they moved to Kaifeng when the Kaifeng became capital of Song Dynasty. So very famous, called the Kaifeng Jewish community. Many books, especially Archbishop White, he wrote a book called Jews in China about the Kaifeng, mainly about Kaifeng. Then more and more books about this community. This community basically, after 1,200 years, assimilated into Confucian Chinese culture. I will show one photo to you, but today I focus on Holocaust. Second wave is Sephardic Jews. Why they come to China? Because 1840, the British Empire opened the door of the Qing Dynasty China. Through the we call the Opium War. So after the door opened, many the British businessmen come to China. So among them, a group Sephardic Jews, like Sassoon family, Kaduri family. They come to China basically from today's Iraq to Bombay, India. They set company like Sassoon, David Sassoon Son Company, set in the Bombay, 1832. They moved to Singapore, Hong Kong, Shanghai. Most people don't know the Sassoon family is one of founder of HSBC. Why they call HSBC? Hong Kong Shanghai Banking Corporation. I will show some photo about Sephardic businessmen. And third group from north, from Russia. You know the pogrom is massacre of Jews in Russia since 1881. Then several million Jews escaped from Russia, come here. But most people don't know, small group Russian Jews crossed Siberia to China, to the city called Harbin. The former Prime Minister Israel Olmert, his grandfather, was among these group. And I know in the New York area, still many Russian Jews, they're connected with Harbin. Fourth group is today's focus is Jews escaped from Holocaust. You know, after 1933, when Hitler came to power, anti-Semitism, and many Jews come to Shanghai. The only city opened the door, even the United States closed the door at that time. Last wave is today. We now have 5,000 Jews in Shanghai. Totally in China, about 12,000 Jews, mainly businessmen, students, teachers, diplomats. In Shanghai, it's 5,000 Jews. So we call this fifth waves. So this is very, very briefly introduction. Then I show photo. I will not read the long paper. I just show photo to you. Then keep more time for question. First photo about the Jews in Kaifeng. You can see it's very, very unique, this synagogue. In the world, only one synagogue, like a Buddhist temple. Or not Buddhist, like Chinese temple. In fact, this is, you cannot say Buddhist, Taoism, Confucian, is mixed. And this synagogue now, the model you can find in the Beis Hatafassu Museum in Tel Aviv. And also in Israeli stamp called synagogue in China. Unfortunately, the synagogue was destroyed by flow of Yellow River in 14th centuries. So now we still see a small stone there. Said this is the former site of Kaifeng synagogue. About the Kaifeng Jews, many research box, different opinion about where they come from, when they come from, why they assimilated. So today I focus on Holocaust, I can, if you have question, we can discuss later. Why I use this photo? Because Sassoon family play very important role in China, in history of China. This is Mr. David Sassoon and three sons. The photo took in India in 1830s, when David Sassoon set the company called the David Sassoon and Son Company. Their first Jewish family do business in China, and very successful, very influential economically. They always use Hong Kong and Shanghai as we call double basis, because you know the civil war in China, lot of the disaster in China. So when the war broke out, they come back to Hong Kong. But what situation stumbles, they go to Shanghai, because Shanghai is more opportunity. First synagogue in Hong Kong, Sephardic synagogue, donated by Sassoon family, built in 1901 called Ohel League Synagogue. Now it's Center for Jewish Community in Hong Kong. And in Hong Kong, about 6,000 Jews live there. And if you visit Hong Kong, you can visit Ohel League Synagogue. There's Shabbat service, kosher food, and they have a wonderful library for Jewish history in China. Sephardic experience in Shanghai. This is the first Sephardic synagogue in Shanghai called the Ohel Ritual Synagogue in Shanghai. This synagogue was Mrs. Hillary Clinton, the former First Lady, visited. I was accompanying her. This is a symbol of Sassoon family in Shanghai. Synagogue still there, keep preserved as a historical building. This is Sassoon building in Shanghai, now called Peace Hotel. If you come to Shanghai, many people like this Peace Hotel because Peace Hotel is not very modern. It's traditional. So for the Jewish tourists, they like Peace Hotel very much because this is a former Sassoon building. Kadooly family is also very influential. This is Sir Ely Kadooly and the two sons, Lord Lawrence Kadooly and Lord Horace Kadooly. The Kadooly family play a very important role in supporting the education in not only Jewish education, also Chinese education. You know, they set the Kadooly Agricultural School in Palestine, still now very active in Israel. And they also established many schools in China. And Kadooly family is still very active now in today's Hong Kong. You know, famous Peninsula Hotel by Kadooly group, now in Shanghai, in Hong Kong. Now we talk something about the Russian Ashkenazi Jews. This is the first synagogue by Ashkenazi Jews in Harbin. You can see Russia here, Harbin Synagogue. This is 1907 by Russian Jews. They escaped from pogrom to Harbin because Harbin, many Russian people live there. Not only Jews, also Russian Eastern Orthodox Church. But the important things in Harbin, no anti-Semitism. In Russia, very strong anti-Semitism. So that's the main reason many the Russian Jews come to Harbin. Of course, they went to North America, but Harbin is more easy. So about 30,000 Jews come to Harbin. Among these people, some come here finally, come to United States, Canada, some other country. But until the Japanese invasion, still 5,000 Russian Jews in Harbin. And also Tianjin. You know, that's a different, right? Now we call it Tianjin. Old time use this, Tianjin. In Tianjin, about 2,000 or 3,000 Jews. Also a very active Jewish community there. In China, the rabbi, most is Chabad. Still now, we have 2 or 3 Chabad Rabbi Greenberg. But the first rabbi in Shanghai is Rabbi Meir Ashkenazi. He is Lubavitch from Vladivostok, Russia. He is very kind. At the beginning, he was the leader of Russian Jews, but later he became the chief rabbi for all the Jewish community, not only Russian Jews or Sephardic Jews, refugee from Germany is very reform. But Rabbi Ashkenazi never forced people to follow his way. He bring all the different Jews from different countries together. So that's very important. Then he, after World War II, family moved to New York. And he passed away in New York. His daughter still keep connection with us. The Russian Jews do the small business like this. That, like Sephardic Jews, they do the banking, real estate. But Sephardic Jews is a small number, about 1,000. but Russian Jews, 5,000, without nationality. So we talk about the legal issue, lot of legal issue, like the nationality. For the Jews, always the issue. The Russian Jews, no passport. They escape from the civil war, from revolution, from anti-Semitism. When they come to Shanghai, stateless. So this is a law issue. We can talk in Shanghai. And Russian Jews do business like this. Fun store. You know, this store, very famous Shanghai, is founded by the Jews named Grigory Klipanov. His niece still in New York, Lily Klipanov, is a good support for our center. And still now, we still have in Shanghai the Siberia phone store. But since weather getting warmer, so they don't really sell. They now sell everything, like shirt, T-shirt, everything. But this is very famous Russian Jews business. I don't have time to show many photos to you. Oh, I will leave my book to your library. Yeah, including several hundred photos. So you can see all the photos. Very, very unique things. Most people don't know this. There was a Jewish army in Shanghai. More exactly, the Jewish fighting unit called the Jewish Company of Shanghai Volunteer Corps. Why is this name? Because British. They have Shanghai, they have a French concession, British American called International Settlement. So they established a small volunteer army, like called the Shanghai Volunteer Corps. There are many companies according to nationality. There's an Italian company, Russian company, French company, according to nationality. Originally, Jewish soldier in the different company. But 1932, they established independent Jewish company. This photo took in 1932. There is 4 officers, 100 soldiers, all Jewish, from Russia, from the Middle East, even from the United States. So at that time, it was only one Jewish fighting unit in the whole world, not in Palestine. In Palestine, Haganah, Yilgun is underground, and not in the United States. It is impossible, not in Europe. You cannot imagine a Jewish army there. But in Shanghai, there is. Now there is several books about the history Jewish company of Shanghai Volunteer Corps. Jewish cemetery in Harbin. This is only cemetery still there, including 600 stones there. Now I turn to today's topic, Holocaust victim in Shanghai. We have many, many photos like these. You know what happened in December 1938, Kristallnacht. After that, all the Jews in Germany, Austria, in the Nazi-occupied area want to find a place to go. But they go to all the embassy, consulate, no, cannot get visa. But Shanghai was the only city you can get into without visa, without a passport. So that's the reason many Jews come to Shanghai. This photo shows 1939, just several months after Kristallnacht, the Rosenfeld family on its way to Shanghai from Berlin. About 50% from Berlin, 30% from Vienna, 20% from the Czechoslovakia, Poland, Lithuania, even the few from Hungary or some other country. You can see the passport. This man from Czechoslovakia, at that time already no independent state occupied by Nazi. But you can see they originally want to go to Iraq. Then they changed it to Shanghai because Iraq the British rule. So finally refused to accept it, refugee. So Shanghai accepted refugee more than those take by Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, India combined. The 5 countries at that time, at the British, combined less than Shanghai, one city. Now I talk about the 2 diplomats who rescued Jews. First is Consul General Feng Shanho. He was a Consul General to Vienna. In fact, it was the embassy in Vienna, but after German occupation became consulate. So he became consulate general. He issued many visas to Jews. So people were asking me, you said any people can get into Shanghai without visa. Why they need a visa? Because they need a visa to escape. The Nazi secret police, Gestapo, said, if you have visa, you can leave immediately. In 24 hours, you can bring 15 Dutch mark. All other things live here. That's the situation in 1938 in Austria, in Germany. So Dr. Feng Shanho, he graduated from University Munich, got the PhD on the German literature, history. He can speak fluent German. So he found this situation, he issued a lot of visa. So some people are still alive. And he went to the 20 to 30 embassy and consulates. Always said no. Finally, he called Dr. Feng Shanho. Dr. Feng Shanho said, how many visa you need? He said, I need 11 visa because 10 my relatives in concentration camp. If they need a visa, they can immediately leave. So Feng Shanho said, okay, I'll give you 11 visa. You just bring passport. So you bring passport. In fact, in front of the consulate, there's secret police. So Dr. Feng Shanho finally into a restaurant, sat at the restaurant next to the consulate, or ask all the people come to restaurant, sit, have a tea, then he issue visa. So one visa is one life. So we found these, then we give all materials to Yad Vashem Authority, Israel. After 2 years, very serious investigation, finally the Israeli government officially issued Dr. Feng Shanho's Right Among Nations. This is first Chinese. Now it's at 20,000 maybe. So now in Yad Vashem, there is Feng Shanho tree there. We cannot find more Chinese because they ask paper evidence. So during the war, it is many Chinese. I don't think they are very high level educated, so they cannot keep all these materials. But Dr. Feng Shanho's materials we found, with support the Simon Wiesenthal Center, with another Jewish organization called Visa for Life. They work very hard trying to find all the diplomats rescue Jews. So we work with them. So finally, we are very happy we now have first Chinese as a Right Among Nations. And Dr. Sukihara, Japanese consul in Lithuania. And he supported your grandfather, Mil Yeshiva, yeah. Mil Yeshiva, all the yeshiva escape. I will talk the story. And all these people, about 1,000 people escaped from German occupied. They were very lucky just before the September 1939. They came to Lithuania, but they're still in a very dangerous situation. Because Nazi army will come, and Red Army also will come. So key issue is priority is they should leave Lithuania before the Nazi army and the Soviet army coming. So they got visa from the Consul Sukihara. Sukihara find a way. In fact, Japanese government said don't give visa because we are good friend of Hitler. But he find a way. He give a transit visa. You use the visa, you can went to Japan, stay 1 month or 2 months. Trying to find the final destination. So anyway, they use this visa, left Lithuania. So how many visa he issued, we don't know. Many books said he issued about several thousand visas. So finally, Japanese government dismissed him. When he left Lithuania, he still issued visas through the windows of the train. In the last minutes, still saved 20 people. So that's a very differences is between Germany and Japan. So for the Sukihara after war, the Japanese government still said that he is wrong because he against rule, against government's order. In the Germany, maybe he became a hero. So we are very happy until 2 years ago, I heard from a Japanese Minister of Foreign Affairs said, yes, now we think Sukihara is right, was right, but he was not a hero because he against government. So this is quite different between Japan and Germany. But Jewish community never forget him. The Mil Yeshiva invited him to Brooklyn, to Jerusalem. He was a very difficult situation after war. No money, very sick, but Jewish community gave a great support to him. Like Sindler, they never forget him. Now the very quick photo, the people arriving in Shanghai, 1939. They can only bring 15 Dutch mark. So when we come to Shanghai, they usually sell this, sell diamonds, sell this for survival. The first several nights, they leave this kind of the room. Sometimes 100 people live together. But next several days, they transfer to the different Heim. The German is home. Heim is a refugee home, something like that. Supported by Sephardic Jews, by the local Chinese community, by the International Red Cross. Mil Yeshiva, this photo is very famous. Mil Yeshiva is very unique things. It's a whole yeshiva, 400 people escape. Whole yeshiva, students, rabbis escape from the Poland. I was in Mil. I was in Poland. I tried to find Mil. The people told me, you should go to Belarusia. Now Mil in Belarusia. Then I went to Mil, nothing about Jewish. No Jewish there, no Jewish building, no nothing. But Mil Yeshiva, they escaped. I just mentioned this. Before the Nazi army coming, before the Red Army coming, they got visa from the Sukihara. They went to Japan. All the yeshiva people, Mil, and including some other small yeshivas, like Lublin Yeshiva, 20 people, 10 people. But Mil Yeshiva is home yeshiva survivor. Almost all other yeshiva were destroyed by Nazi during the war. And they went to Japan in the Kobe, stayed for several months because they only have transit visa. They tried to get the U.S. visa, but U.S. closed the door. So in the last minutes before the Pearl Harbor bombing, it's December 1941, October, 2 months before Pearl Harbor bombing, they come to Shanghai. They know only way is Shanghai. So all the Mil Yeshiva people come to Shanghai. This is during wartime. They stay in the base Aharon synagogue. It's very interesting things. They continue to study Torah, Talmud every day, like without the war. But Japanese cannot touch them because they are religious people. Japanese established something camp, I will mention, but they cannot force them to move the camp because they are religious people. After war, the Mil Yeshiva people moved to, now we have 2 Mil Yeshiva, one in Brooklyn, one in Jerusalem. I visited both, and I was welcomed as a hero. They said, you from our home city. They have a reunion every year in Shanghai. Yeah. So this is a very, very emotional story about the Orthodox Judaism. They said that they survive in Shanghai. Catholic school, because so many the refugee children come to Shanghai. So originally Shanghai was a Jewish school. No, not enough. So Kaduri family, I mentioned, they play very important for education. They established this school. Many German, Austria refugee children learn to speak English in this school, including Michael Blumenthal, my good friend. And I call him. He still keeps the position of professor in Princeton University, and now he invited by German government as a director of the Jewish Museum in Berlin. But his apartment in Park Avenue, and he told me when the family come to Shanghai, he was 13. Yeah. And he went to this school, study English. So after war, as you know, he come to U.S., finally became Secretary of Treasury during President Carter government. And of course, they also influenced. They have influence over the Shanghai life. Like this small street, you can see many the Germans there. The refugee open small business. They are like Sephardic Russian Jews. They do the small business like this restaurant, coffee house, sell ice cream, soft drink, something like that. So people call it Little Vienna. The Ohel Moshe Synagogue, the religious center for Jewish refugees. I mentioned this originally by Russian Jews, but during the wartime, so many refugees come, so became religious center for Jewish refugees. The Passover Seder in Honkyu-Heim by German Jews, basically the Reform style. They even brought Yiddish drama to Shanghai. I should mention that before their coming, Chinese already translate some book like Shalom Aleichem from the English and Russia into Chinese. But they brought really Yiddish book. So after their coming, Chinese know Yiddish. Before they come in, Chinese really don't know it. Some people maybe know Hebrew, didn't know Yiddish. And you can see the book published in Yiddish, Shanghai Jewish publication in Yiddish, and another in English, Russia, and Yiddish. This is by a Russian Jews called Nasha Zhizny, Our Life, on the level. This is very interesting. This is a VJ Day, Japanese surrounded. They published this, you can see, they put the flag, US, UK, Republic of China, and Soviet Union. And German, of course. They published more than 20 German publications, like this Gilbert Post, Yellow Post. And now the very difficult situation is we call the final solution in Shanghai. When Jewish refugees come into Shanghai, in Shanghai, already Nazi party member, about several hundred. And this man is the leader, German Consul General, Kribel. In fact, he is Nazi Lieutenant Colonel Hermann Kribel. And then Adolf Hitler sent this man to Shanghai. His name is Josef Meisinger. He was chief of Gestapo in Warsaw, killed many people, then leader of Gestapo in Tokyo. He come to Shanghai, he put forward a called final solution in Shanghai. This is 7 months after Pearl Harbor. So Mr. Meisinger told the Japanese, since you joined the war against the United States, against the British, so you should follow the Jewish policy. We can teach you how to kill Jews, and we can provide you all the equipment free. So his solution, we call the Meisinger plan, suggests the Japanese occupation sets up the 3 concentration camps in the Chongming Island near Shanghai. Then he said the Rosh Hashanah is good opportunity to arrest all Jews because Jewish family get together. So he suggests in September 1942, ask Japanese to arrest all Jews, then put them in the concentration camp. Fortunately, finally Japanese didn't do this. Yeah. Because Japanese ask why we should do this. Because Jewish is not really enemy of us. But among the Japanese leadership, the different opinion. One group is very pro-Nazi. Said we should do, at least we should do something. We even don't kill Jews, we should do something. Finally, they established this called a designated area for stateless refugees. All the stateless refugee is Jewish refugee. Because in the Nazi passport there is a J. J means they are not German citizens. They are stateless. So February 18, 1943, the Japanese officially established this designated area for stateless refugees. Very interesting things they don't want to mention concentration camp. They don't want to mention Jewish. They mention stateless refugee. So in fact, they include Jews from Europe. But it's very interesting thing. They didn't touch Russian Jews. Sephardic Jews already in jail because they are British. After Pearl Harbor, all the British American citizens are the jail, not because they are Jew, because they are enemy alien. But why they didn't touch Russian Jews? Because at that time agreement between Japan and Soviet Union called no war, keep neutral. So if they touch Russian Jews, like touch Soviet Union. So Japanese is very, very careful. So finally, only the Jews from the Nazi-occupied area have to move to this area, called stateless refugee area. This photo is very interesting. This man's name is Goya, the Japanese head of the Honkyu Ghetto. In fact, it was not really ghetto like Europe. But now historians always call the Honkyu Ghetto, first ghetto in China. Because in Europe, ghetto is Jews, only Jews lived inside. But in this Honkyu area, Chinese Jews live together. But the historians still call it ghetto. You know, every people cannot go out. But if they want to go out, they should apply this special pass. And Mr. Goya had the right to issue the pass. You can see he issued the pass. But I should say very frankly, he never killed Jews. So after war, when U.S. Army arrested him, say he is a war criminal, something like that. He said, I never killed Jews. So some refugees said, yes, he never killed Jews. So finally he released. This is ghetto life. We have many photos. They still remember how their mother, their grandmother make the food. They call the Jewish food made in China. This way, small one like Shanghai way, usually takes 3 hours smoking. And Jews, Chinese live together. This is too small. In fact, you can see this. Many is in German, in Chinese, in English. Some of the dentists, some of the accounts, different small business. But anyway, they live together. So it was not really ghetto like Europe. Finally, Japanese surrounded in August 1942. This is the last day of the designated area. You can see the refugee put all the flag there, celebrate the victory. So next several days, the war collapsed. So I should say most people in the area survived. But in 1944, it's a very difficult situation. Some older people and children died. Because after Pearl Harbor, U.S., UK, all the allied governments didn't give permission to send money and food to enemy occupied area. Because U.S. government said, I'm not sure whether this is can get by Jewish refugee, maybe got by Japanese. So Jewish community in the United States play a very important role, especially JDC. So I always said, thanks to JDC, they give a lot of support. But after Pearl Harbor, they have to stop because enemy occupied the area. Fortunately, in 1944, the money and food come again through Switzerland. They finally find a way. And Switzerland sent office in Shanghai supervise all the money and food got by refugee, not by Japanese. So situation became better after 1944. So I should say most people survived, and few people died. This is after war. The Shanghai people looking through the list of Holocaust survivors for names of these relatives. Many people still now remember the last day when they left Berlin or Vienna. In the train station, they say goodbye to their parents. In fact, many people want to bring their parents, but they don't know what is Shanghai. So they try to come first, arrange, then bring their parents, but it's too late. So many people, when they back to Vienna, Berlin, they found all the relatives, all the family members were killed. Only one cousin in Israel. So something like that. Almost all the refugees, the same situation. Cannot find any relatives. Only finally find some people in Israel. And several refugees joined the Chinese army. So we have several Jewish generals in Chinese army. This is Dr. Jacob Rosenfeld. He is very famous. Now his monument in Ramat Gan in Israel. He passed away in Israel in 1952. So there is a monument in Ramat Gan near the Tel Aviv. And in China, we have Dr. Rosenfeld Hospital, Dr. Rosenfeld Foundation for Medical Studies. And in Vienna, he's from Vienna, in Central Park, there is a monument for Dr. Rosenfeld. And also many the refugees became very famous professor, like Dr. Alfred Wittenberg is a very famous violinist. Before the Nazi, he got the Bach award. But after Nazi come, he lost the job. He came to Shanghai, became a professor in Shanghai Conservatory Music. He taught many Chinese students. His students now is a president of a university, president of Shanghai Conservatory Music. He never returned to Germany. He said, I don't want to return to Germany. I want to I stay here with my Chinese students. He passed away in 1953. So there is a statue in the Shanghai Conservatory Music in memory of him. And many the artists from Europe, one of is Mr. Chief's cartoon. I use this cartoon. It's very interesting that I like Chinese. This is all 1930s Chinese. Our grandmother's time, not today's Chinese. And they live together. I said, Chinese Jews live together. No, very good relations between them. And we like this photo very much because the two girls dressed in Chinese way with Chinese dolls. Yeah. And they both still keep connection with us. One is in this lady in Australia, Melbourne. This lady in Tel Aviv. Finally, third part about Holocaust education, the story about Shanghai. More and more books come. I should tell you now, people work very hard trying to make a movie. We now have more than 50 documentary, but still we don't have any story movie like Schindler's List. Uh, we are very happy now. Several groups, including a group in Hollywood, work for this. But so far, the program is no good scribed, no good scribed. So I hope they can work. Main play very important role is Mr. Michael Medvoy. He was born in Shanghai, in Russian Jewish community. He's a very famous producer. Black Swan, he is producer. He was producer for many Oscar movie. He now work. I am as an advisor of history to him, but no good script. We try to find the people to write good script. Many story, but how to make story into the movie? It's very difficult. I found. And this is a monument for Holocaust victim in Shanghai. When you come to Shanghai, you can visit there. And Michael Blumenthal, this man, he back to Shanghai. Here. This is 1939. He was Secretary of Treasury. And you can see the people surrounded him from New York Times, Washington Post, Time. So next day, all the report about his experience in Shanghai as a refugee. Mr. Shaw Ensenberger was a refugee. It's very unique since he found the Shanghai Diamond Exchange Center. This is a very interesting story in New York Times also. About 20 years ago, he asked me how many percent of Chinese getting rich. I said, I don't know, maybe 5%. He said, oh, there is no market for diamond. I asked him, do you know how many Chinese? Finally, 5% is almost 60 million. So he said, oh, there is market. He worked very hard until he passed away. His family continued. Finally, they established this Shanghai Diamond Exchange Center, now work very active in the Great Hyatt Hotel in Shanghai, and about 200 members from New York also, from Antwerp, Belgium, from Tel Aviv, from South Africa, even the new member from Russia. Oh, this is Mil Yeshiva photo. This is 1991, almost 20. At that time, Mil Yeshiva, we still have 6 people. This is old, almost 90. Your grandfather maybe know these people. Now all pass away, of course, pass away. Then Brooklyn, I met Rabbi Kamenowitz, 1992, yeah. But all these people pass away. Shanghai Reunion, every year. Every year they come together. But now, people getting old. They cannot take flight. So now they establish internet reunion. Yeah, only through internet. We interview many people now pass away. The leaders come. The Isaac Rabin, former Prime Minister of Israel. I showed the book to him. He is very happy. He said, we never forget the Shanghai's role in rescuing Jewish refugees. Simon Peres, President Simon Peres, visit here. This the Netanyahu, Bibi Netanyahu, visit here. Visit Shanghai, so not here. Visit Shanghai. And it was 1996 or 1998. Then he come to Shanghai again last year, 2013. I showed the photo to him. I said, Prime Minister, you look like no change. He very happy. He showed, his wife said, Professor Pan said, I no change after 15 years. A very interesting Omet. The first Israeli leader originally from China. And after Shanghai, he went to Harbin. You can see this is his grandfather's stone there, you can see. Joseph Mosefovich in Russia, Old Mert, passed away in 1941. So this is still in her being. Yeah. So we are very happy that finally one Israeli leader coming from China, not from Russia or Poland. President Thomas Krestio, Austria president, he come to Shanghai. I should say sorry, we cannot protect them. I also want to say thank you. You provide all the support to them. German Chancellor Gerhard Schröder, German leader, every leader come to Shanghai synagogue to see the Jewish museum. And Hillary Clinton was the first lady in 1998 with President Clinton. So I was accompany her. Met the leader of Jewish community, Rabbi Asher Schnell, from here, from New York, Park East Synagogue. And so people always return, always remember this historical page. I visited Simon Wiesenthal in Vienna. He's very interested in the Shanghai story. You know, he find almost 1,000 Nazi war criminals. And now we have Austria Holocaust Memorial Service in Shanghai. Every year, Austria government send one young people come to our center, work with us. 1 year as a volunteer, same like 1 year military service. So every year we have a young Austria. But you know, very interesting, most of them, they're not Jewish. One young people come just because his grandfather was Nazi. So he want to come to do something for Holocaust survivors. And we have exhibition Jewish refugee in Shanghai in commemoration of the 60th anniversary. This is 2005. You can see Michael Blumenthal give the keynote speak, and the Shanghai leaders stand there. So next year will be 60th anniversary. So I think we work with you for this big event. Oh, this is very interesting. The Chinese neighbor of the former refugee got together. I would photo with them. At that time, 20 people. Now, I think only 10. It's 10 years ago. Interview with them. They can tell you many, many stories. So Hollywood people trying to get more story from the Chinese neighbor. Because another perspective. This is the President China in Yad Vashem. This symbolic photo is the end. Oh, the first one is our president, former President Hu, come to the Mr. Israel Epstein. He was refugee from Europe, but he became high-level people in China as a minister level. He became Chinese citizen. Most people left China, but about 10 people became Chinese citizen, became our member of our parliament, and most is left-wing people. Left-wing people. They originally is a communist party, social party, socialist party. They stay in China. So I think this is the end of my talk. Thank you very much. I would like to answer questions and a free discussion with you. Thank you.
Please, one more emperor, I think your Hui's attitudes, if any, to the Jews. Emperor Hui's attitudes to the Jews.
Oh, Emperor Hui.
Hui.
This is sorry, most people don't know because Hui is a Japanese puppet government, set the Japanese puppet government called the Manzhou State, Manzhou Guo. That's the reason why many Jews left Harbin. Yeah, that's the reason. But I don't think Hui and Japanese really anti-Semitism. Yeah, they didn't kill Jews. I don't think they really do something like the Nazi. Yeah. And about Fu Yi, his attitude towards Jews, no any materials about him. Yeah. I don't think he is really anti-Semitism. Yeah. He didn't follow the Nazis' way. Yeah. In Harbin, in some of the city, some anti-Semitism by white Russia. By white Russia, not really by the Fu Yi government. Yeah. It's very interested. You're interested in this topic. No many people in China know this. Yeah. Please.
What was the effect of Mao taking over? How did that affect the Jewish community, the Jews who remained in Shanghai and China when there was a change in government?
Yes. This is different cases. For the refugee, after war, most refugees immediately left Shanghai because they want to find their relatives in Europe. Then they feel very sad because most relatives, family members were killed. So most refugees immigrated to 4 countries: the United States, Australia, Canada, and Israel. So this is the first group. So after 49, when the People's Republic established, Mao established the People's Republic, no many refugees. Sephardic also left because they are do business, they are capitalism. So most Sephardic Jews bring their company to Hong Kong. They keep in Hong Kong. They're very interesting after People's Republic established. At that time, no connection between New China and the Western world. Only UK have the office, have the embassy in Beijing. No US, no. Then Korea War and Cold War. So Sephardic Jews in Hong Kong became a bridge between Western world and China. So they do business there. And the Russian Jews, their very, very unique story is most of them got Soviet passport during World War II. The reason because no war between Japan and Soviet Union, got Soviet passport for safe. I don't think they really support Stalin. They just got passport for safe. So after the war, since they are Soviet citizens, so no problem for them to stay in China. But most of them didn't return to Soviet Union. If they leave China, they go to the United States, Australia. Many went to Israel. Then 1960, when China and Soviet Union conflicts, remember this? So most of the Jews, Russian Jews left. But the group still, China, last group left because, not because People's Republic, because Cultural Revolution. When Cultural Revolution broke out, no foreigners can stay in China, not only Jews. Yeah. So most foreigners left. On 10 years, until 1966, until 1976, when Deng Xiaoping came to power, the people come back. So now in Shanghai, for example, the 5,000 Jews, some of them have connection with old Jewish community. But most of them is new people, no any connection with old. But some people, yes, their grandfather was in Shanghai, or their father was in Shanghai. Yeah. So basically, the 3 group, the 3 cases. Yeah. Please.
I'll ask a question. In understanding the Japanese attitude towards Jews during this period of time, can you say a little bit about how the experience of the war between Russia and Japan early in the 20th century, how that may have been a factor in how Japanese officials thought about the Jewish community?
Yes, at that time, in fact, the Japanese and Jewish keep very good relations because, you know, the Jewish community and especially the bank, they support Japan. The play a very important role. The relations became deteriorated because 1931 Japanese established this. The gentleman just mentioned Manchukuo. Manchukuo in Manchuria, some the anti-Semitism in Harbin. So then Japan became the alliance of Hitler. So at that time, Japanese want to establish a settlement for Jewish refugees left Europe. They sent a delegation come to the United States to meet the Rabbi Stephen Weiss or some leaders. He tried to persuade Japan is a good friend of Jewish community. You should give money to us. We establish a settlement. We could accept it. Even 500,000 Jews left Europe. But the leader of the Jewish community here said, no, you are good friend of Hitler, so we cannot give any money to you. So finally, this is not really, this is, not successful. But I just said the Japanese didn't really kill Jews. Yeah, they didn't kill Jews. And for the Russian Jews, they didn't touch them until the August 9, 1945. August 9, 1945, Soviet Union officially declares a war against Japan. Because Soviet Union seems worried about United States or the Western Alliance will occupy all the Japan and Korea, and even the China, Manchuria. So they are in the last minutes, August 9, 6 days before the Japanese officially surrounded Soviet Union into the war. They occupied almost all the northwest Manchuria city, Harbin, Shenyang, Dalian, Changchun, and North Korea. So that's why to Korea. And they almost come to Japan, but finally cancel this plan. So we know this. We do some research on the 6 days, August 9 to August 15. The 6 days, Japanese didn't have time to do something, touch the Soviet cities. But in the Manchuria, in the city called Halai, Japanese killed about 20 to 30 Soviet citizens, including 12 or 13 Jewish. Yeah, this is the only case. And before they want to do something, the emperor announced surrounded. So the war is over. War was over. So basically, Japanese didn't do something. Yeah, but now we have an interview with people. Some people said their grandfather was died in Japanese jail. So I was surprised. I think some people maybe is a member of German Communist Party, for example. So they come here, then Gestapo contacts Japanese police or something like that. Basically, Japanese didn't kill Jews. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.